family law, best interests of the child is sort of this constant standard that exists in any case where there are children involved, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a paternity case, whether it's a guardianship case. At the end of the day, the one thing that the courts will always turn to in assessing what to do in a case is what is in the child's best interest. So much so that oftentimes courts will even appoint or order the parties to pay for a guardian ad litem who's an individual that will actually provide the court with some type of insight and recommendation of what is in the child's best interest. There's no sort of definitive definition of what this means. A lot of this is very subjective on the part of the court. Of course, there's plenty of case law that gives attorneys guidance on what would be considered in the child's best interest or not. But as a general rule, it really has a lot to do with the court and their discretion and their acceptance of what they consider to be in the child's best interest in that particular case.
They say it's in the best interest of the child, but is it really? Or is it just this lie has been told so often that it sounds like the truth? We're going to deconstruct the myth of the best interest of the child being used to justify maternal custody bias in family court. That phrase, the best interest of the child, has been weaponized against fathers, used not to protect children, but to protect the system that favors one parent, the mother, and disenfranchises fathers and ultimately rips families apart. Let's talk about the lie behind the best interest of the child, according to family court, and how it's used for so long now to justify maternal custody bias, literally for decades. My own experience. Some of my fondest memories are of feeding my children when they were babies, getting up in the middle of the night and looking out the window after a fresh snowfall, having that special time one-on-one with my child. Where I live, it snows just a couple times a year, but it's really beautiful to see. And to have that memory of getting up in the middle of the night and feeding my child as a father, I've always treasured that. I did feedings. I handled getting the baby's bottles ready. I got up in the middle of the night with both of my children at least half the time. I changed diapers. I did bath time. I took the kids with me when I ran errands. You know, I had the little baby born and I would carry the baby on my chest. I counted that as a workout. As the kids grew, I cooked for them, of course, and made sure they were dressed and ready for school. You know, the typical things you do as a parent, as a father. But see, there's an illusion of objectivity in family court. But let's get something straight. On paper, the best interest of the child sounds noble. It sounds good. I mean, who could argue with putting kids first? But dig deeper and you find this standard is vague, subjective, and ripe for abuse. There is no consistent definition. Family court judges are given wide discretion. And guess what? That discretion almost always favors the mother. In over 90% of custody cases, mothers receive primary custody. How can that possibly be fair? It's not because fathers are unfit, but because the courts still operate on an outdated, unspoken assumption that children need their mothers more, fathers are secondary caregivers, men can just pay child support and move on. You know, this isn't law, it's bias dressed up as compassion. It's a system built on incentives. As I've noted in previous messages here on Resilient Man, let's follow the money. When courts grant custody to one parent, usually the mother, what follows? Child support, federal funding back to the state, litigation fees, therapists, evaluators, supervised visitation in some cases. It's a multi-billion-dollar divorce industry, and it thrives when families break apart and one parent is marginalized, the father. Don't ever forget, divorce in family court is big business. And here's the kicker. The best interest of the child standard gives judges cover to make biased decisions against fathers without ever admitting to that fact. Because if it's for the child, then who's going to question it? Well, it's the children who ultimately pay the price, though. You want to know who suffers the most? It's not just the fathers, it's the children. Kids raised without active, present fathers, because the fathers have been pushed to the periphery of their children's lives, they suffer higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. Increased dropout and incarceration rates, and higher likelihood of teen pregnancy and substance abuse. And these are just not fringe stats. This is peer-reviewed social science. It's facts. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, children from fatherless homes account for 63% of suicides, 70% of juvenile delinquents, and 90% of homeless or runaway children. So when the court strips a father of equal custody without evidence of abuse or unfitness, it's not protecting children. It's actually creating broken futures. Let me tell you about the typical father out there in family court. Clean record, stable job, maybe he coached his son's little league. After divorce, though, the court gave his ex full custody, citing stability and routine. He now sees his son every other weekend. His crime? Not being the mother. Or maybe the father is a veteran. He fought for his country, but couldn't fight family court. His ex fabricated abuse claims, no evidence, no charges, still lost custody though. These are not outliers. These are millions of men out there quietly suffering while being told they're deadbeats, when all they want to be is dads. The truth is really ugly, but it's necessary to talk about. It's why I'm doing these messages here on Resilient Man channel. The best interest of the child is often just a smokescreen for a rigged system, a system that rewards maternal preference, profits from fatherless homes, punishes masculinity when it's nurturing, not just earning. Why are fit fathers treated like visitors in their kids' lives? They're pushed to the periphery of their children's lives. Why is 50-50 custody not the starting point, the standard? Why are courts incentivized through federal funds to break families, not mend them? How can this be in the best interest of the child? My own experience. Custody was every other weekend and Tuesday nights. And I was a very active father. I was always at my kids' games and recitals and school events. I went to everything. I didn't want to miss anything because it was extra time to get to see my children. Again, how can this be in the best interest of the child? Let's talk about what needs to change. So what is best for the child? The science is clear. Meaningful, consistent relationships with both the mother and the father. We need presumptive shared custody. 50-50 shared custody should be the standard. Strict limits on judicial discretion. If a judge decides it should not be 50-50 custody, that judge needs to document why with a specific reason. Accountability for false accusations. There needs to be consequences to mothers who lie in court to get what they want. An end to financial incentives that fuel this conflict. If the standard is 50-50 custody, there's no need for child support. The parents simply work out the extracurriculars together. They would have to. If we really want to protect children, we must stop punishing fathers. And it starts with killing the myth that what's best for the child is automatically maternal custody. It's not. Actually, if we look at how things have gone in the past 40 plus years, where many children have been raised in a single mother home, it hasn't gone that well. And those are facts. What's best for the child is to have both parents in their lives on an equal basis. Fathers kept on the periphery of their children's lives is not what's in the best interest of the child.
One of the best ways to deal with a contested custody case is to never give up. These cases can be very long and very difficult. Most importantly, they could be emotionally draining on you as a parent. What you need to do is just stay focused and stay consistent with your efforts. If you're trying to show the court that you are a better parent and the children are better suited with you, do not give up on that idea. Make sure that you continue doing things that you're doing as you were doing them before the divorce process started. Do not change the way you are and what kind of a person and what kind of a parent you are just because there's a divorce.
What's in the best interest of the child is this truth. Subscribe, support the channel. If you're in a similar situation right now, hit that subscribe button for me right now. It's about men advocating for men. If you know of a guy who's in a similar situation right now, share this content with him. He needs to hear this message. Stay resilient. Know your worth as a father and as a man. Protect your peace.